What are we doing when we play video games? When we play a Mario game, we are technically controlling how he moves and when he jumps, and in modern games, choosing to show off your nipples. Regardless of what you do, Mario's personality remains concrete. The gist of every Mario game so far is Princess Peach is kidnapped by the evil Bowser. Mario is a good plumber boy and travels the world to save this damsel in distress. The game might be a big open world adventure where you don't have to play specific levels in order, therefore providing the player with the freedom of choice, but this choice only relates to how Mario progresses in saving Princess Peach. In Mario Odyssey, the intended way to play the game is to collect the required amount of moons in each kingdom so that you can travel to the next one, following Bowser's trail and getting closer to saving Peach. If you choose not to go to the next kingdom immediately and play around with the collectathon aspect instead, that kind of makes sense in the game's story too. You are still progressing, just not in the way that the game expects you to do. So in this example, the player is not the character and vice versa. Instead, the player exists to guide Mario to his personal goal. Most games follow this structure. You play through a pre-written story and your role is to provide the actions for the main character to fulfill their role in the story. So in Mario's case, we aren't actually this divine being that has complete ownership over Mario's body and soul, just his body. We can't change what happens, his fate has been written down, but we can describe how he gets there. In other games, you might have a dialogue choice when interacting with NPCs and shop owners, but these choices don't really affect the story. So they don't have much of an effect on the game world, but adds a lot to the experience by allowing you to shape the character in your own image, or in better words, make them what you want them to be. And so in this example, we have more control over Link by handling what they do, what they say in some situations, clothing, and choosing what side quests you want to go on before fulfilling the main objective. If we pretend that video games are this magical portal into another universe, we now have a basic understanding of our divine powers. We mostly have control over physical decisions, and by physical I mean movement, attacks, and anything that isn't related to our character's behavior and personality traits. Our influence isn't as strong as a god's would be, but what if we could control our character fully, really take over their minds, and make them ours?
Were you pooping?
The 100-line Last Defense Academy is weird. See, the game advertises itself as having 100 endings, and so you might come to think that you, the player, have a lot of power over where the story goes in this game. You come to a split path almost all the time, so you're obviously going to be a self-insert, because that's the only way the story makes sense, right? Like, it wouldn't lie to you about having 100 endings, right? See, the game makes it clear that Takumi Sumino, the main character who we play as, has a past that we aren't aware of, and throughout the 15-hour runtime of the game's story, it tells us that we're going to have to make a difficult choice, and you anticipate the decision only for Takumi to take that decision on his own anyways. We've been promised an adventure where our choices matter, but how can we experience it if we can't choose in the first place? And the game doesn't even have a satisfying ending. Plot threads are unresolved, every remaining cast member is depressed, and at the end, every single thing you went through, it didn't matter. Not at all. This is the worst possible ending. Until your main character feels so bad about how horrible this ending is that he uses his powers of combat to travel through time to reset the game, to try again, and give everyone a better ending. Welcome to the 100-line Last Defense Academy 2. Holy shit, what a title drop. Finally, the actual game where you can affect the story, where you can experience 100 unique iterations of this game's reality is here, now, after a 15-hour edging session. Oh, 15-hour edging session. I should do that one day. But I need to tell you the truth. For context, the reason Takumi goes back is to make sure that no one dies this time around, and to uncover the mystery surrounding the Last Defense Academy. To do this, he chooses to stay behind and time travel instead of joining his classmates, who leave Earth in an escape pod bound for the remnants of human civilization living on an artificial moon. Got that? Okay, good. Right after the cutscene where Takumi time travels, we stay behind and watch as the escape pod returns to Earth, carrying a walkie-talkie. A message for Takumi comes through. Hey, Takumi! This is really bad. The cutscene ends and we cut back to Takumi's view after his successful time travel. It's implied that either something bad has happened on the artificial satellite or they received equally bad information upon returning. Takumi has returned with a pretty solid plan to make sure that nothing goes wrong and that all of his friends get onto the escape pod safely while we relive the 100 days. And us as the player know that something's up with the satellite.
I have a natural distrust of
Satellite.
This is what we call a problematic information gap. Do we use our new power over the narrative to be a cruel god, one that chooses to bring the people under their control to a terrible fate, to let our subjects believe in a false safety, one that we know is bad for them? Or do we become a god that cares, but an unfair one? We don't want Takumi to fail in his objectives, of course not, both of us want good endings, but we know that the satellite is not one of them. Takumi doesn't know this. Wouldn't it be wrong to hinder their progress and try to steer the narrative into a different direction, find a better solution even if Takumi thinks that the satellite is his only hope? I like to think that Takumi isn't a vessel for us as a player to experience the story after the reset. It feels wrong, especially after 15 hours of experiencing Takumi as himself. He is a person, he is a character, he is not a self-insert. And that is true because after the reset, we don't suddenly become Takumi, we just tell him what to do. And that is why I think after the reset, we actually have divine control over the narrative itself. And Takumi is our conduit. We sit in the crevices of his mind, whispering in his ear, telling him what to do when he has to make a choice, which doesn't sound like much, but our choices have a domino effect on the story and the world as a whole. Through this system, we don't have 100% of the control that we could have, but we have enough to make sure that we can take care of the cast, make sure that nothing goes wrong, to find out what we need to, and to be responsible. Even if we cannot live in the universe ourselves and do what we want to do if we were in Takumi's shoes, we can at least tell him what to do and he will enact it for us. In Oneshot, it's different. See, I've always talked about player control being this divine, godlike force that controls the player in different ways, but these games don't actually mention player control or divine forces or anything like that. It was just a device I was using to explain our influence as if it was really in-game. But here, in Oneshot, we really are God. No, I'm not kidding. To go over this quickly, the player is an actual character within the universe of Oneshot and is known as the god that helps guide our main character Nico in his journey. Our existence is divine. We commune with Nico through a different dimension entirely, peeking into a world that exists in our hands. There are puzzles that Nico cannot solve themselves, and they require us to interact with files and our desktop wallpaper to progress. They need us to go forward because our real human world is intertwined with the emulation of a world that Nico lives in. This emulation lives within our machines and therefore makes us responsible for hundreds of lives. In the game, we talk to Nico directly about us, our world, and our differences, and here we do have control over Nico, but not completely like possessing the character or playing as them. We have control akin to a guardian or caretaker. Without spoiling the game as badly as possible, control here in Oneshot feels like a responsibility. I'm not experiencing the game world through Nico's eyes or anything. I am literally experiencing the game world by sitting on my ass and launching Oneshot on my laptop. This is the closest we will ever be to God, having immense power but yet responsibility. A God that is acknowledged, known, and somehow comprehensible to the person you're guiding. And so it deepens the pain you feel when you know that what you're doing leads to an inevitable, messy ending that I am not gonna talk about. #shush. The thing is, we still don't know everything about the world in Oneshot. We aren't omniscient, we've just been placed into the role of a god. But we don't know everything. We don't know how the game's world works. And for some players, they will never know. This is the true extent of our divine power in Oneshot. See, our divine connection is important. It's the one thing that allows for this game to work, for Nico to actually complete his goal. But again, are we really powerful? Do we have the power of a god? I wouldn't say we are actual gods in Oneshot. I'd say that we are more of an angel. A guardian angel. Okay, look, I'll be honest with you. Deltarune is the perfect game for this video. If you haven't played it yet, I will give you a final spoiler warning as I will be diving into this game's guts like a hungry cannibal. Deltarune is a very, very special game. So far, I framed player control and agency as this divine, godlike, theological power because hey, it sounds cool. Isn't this video essay really cool and awesome? Doesn't it make you feel like you're a really chill, ethereal being when you load up Mario Odyssey or Minecraft creative mode? Well, what if a game rejected that? Deltarune gives us this question: and runs away like a homeless bum. In the opening cutscene, we're told to make our own character, a vessel as the game calls it, a medium for you to enjoy a video game world as if you were always a part of it. Would you really engage with a game if you weren't at its core? Come on, that's boring, dumb, it's as dead as breadcrumbs. Once you're done, you can name this vessel and name yourself, the creator of said vessel. And after this, the game starts, and you watch with bated breath as your vessel is discarded. Your choices do not matter. You will not play as your own creation, you will play as Chris. Kind of. See, throughout the long runtime of this game, we play as this blue and sometimes yellow fellow, but the longer we play, the less we control Chris. See, Chris is their own person, and they are not a self-insert for the player or a vessel like before. This becomes obvious through the endings of chapters 1 and 2 and a segment in 4. Chris rips out the soul and dumps it in a box to make sure it stays there and closes the door. Whatever shall the soul do? We're trapped! Dumbass. If you don't know what the soul does, it's what we use to navigate menus, to dodge during combat, and to pick dialogue choices. It's a very important part of the game, and here, Chris just rips it out, and we can watch them be themselves without any outside influence after a long time. This is Chris. So in actuality, we are controlling the soul that allows us to control Chris. To clarify, I don't mean control like how we're controlling the soul by telling it what to do. We aren't applying a divine force onto the soul. The soul is that force. It represents and acts as the link between you and the game. When we are ripped out from Chris's body, we can move and listen, and that's it. We can observe, but video games are not meant to be observed. They're meant to be lived in and interacted with. That's why we need Chris to live through them. But is that really okay? Look, Chris obviously does not like us being inside of them, inside of their head, controlling their body, their choices. It is painful. But we don't think of that because we've been used to it for so long. Nothing's wrong here. This is just normal. I'm not trying to imply that you are evil for playing Deltarune. That's a very easy conclusion, and the game doesn't say this either. It's actually very nuanced. Without getting into a lot of detail, Chris needs the soul, even if they hate it. They are dependent on each other, and this creates a complex relationship that I don't think I can accurately put into words. And in every single example I've shown you so far, one thing remains the same. We are responsible. We are responsible if Mario doesn't save Peach. We are responsible if Link fails in saving the world from Ganon. We are responsible if Takumi and his friends suffer over and over. We are responsible if Nico does not know what to do. And for Chris, we are responsible for everything. Thank you for watching.